You know you're watching Stanley Kubrick if the pictures speak. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, but a Kubrick image speaks its own language that can't be translated. To say Kubrick is a great photographer doesn't just mean that he's given us a lot of pretty pictures. It means he can say things with a picture, and not just simple, literal things, but primal, emotional, unwordable things. His pictures speak to us about philosophy and complex ideas. Take Barry Lyndon. Kubrick zooms out from the action to make his characters look like they're trapped in a period-appropriate 18th century painting. He's not moving the camera deliberately, he's zooming rather than dynamically tracking, so the proportions of the image don't change. So he's visually expressing that Barry is stuck in a static society. His attempts to strive for a better life are ultimately futile. The opening credits of Lolita present the image of Lolita's foot for Humbert to adoringly adorn with polish. So this initial image sets up something unexpected in the power dynamic of the relationship we're about to see. In The Shining, when Wendy locks Jack in the pantry, the camera looks up at him from the floor, and the radical image communicates several things to us at once. It expresses Jack's mounting insanity. It's as if his demonic point of view is looking up from hell itself. It disorients us. We feel like everything's upside down. And it shows us that even though he's the one locked up, Jack still towers over Wendy. He makes her feel small and beaten down in the frame. Then there's one of the most famous cuts in history, from 2001: A Space Odyssey. This moment is iconic not only because it looks cool, but also because there's a philosophy articulated through this cut. The idea that for all of our progress, our technology is still basically the same as that first tool, which was a weapon that our ape ancestors used to kill. Before we go on, we wanted to tell you a little bit about this video's sponsor, Skillshare, which is a really great online learning community. They've got classes on everything we love: video production, writing, photography. If you're one of the first 500 people to sign up with our link in the description below, you get 2 months access to all their classes for just 99 cents. Now, back to Kubrick. Kubrick sort of keeps his lips sealed as to what message the movie's trying to express. It's pretty far from, say, an Aaron Sorkin movie, where the message is eloquently articulated for us, maybe multiple times.
It'll be because you're an asshole.
Kubrick said that he found it very difficult when interviewers asked the question, "What is it that you were trying to say in that picture?" In his words, "If I could have said it any differently, I would have." By refusing to tell us what to think about his movies, by speaking to us directly through the language of film, Kubrick creates a pure cinematic experience. And he's forcing us to discover what we think the meaning is for ourselves.
I think he was one of the most, not just sophisticated technically, but he was one of the greatest thinkers to ever make a movie. His films are intellectually really profound. You really have to work to make them mean something. He allows you to interpret it for yourself. And that's a dangerous thing because we might misinterpret what he intended. But that's the security of this very talented artist, that he's going to allow us to have that power.
When 2001: A Space Odyssey was released, Kubrick pointed out that some critics didn't understand the film because they were, in his opinion, too verbally oriented. To quote him, "Every child that sees the film knows that Dr. Floyd goes to the moon. You say, well, how do you know? And they say, well, we saw the moon." Whereas a number of people, including critics, thought he went to the planet Clavius. Why they think there's a planet Clavius, I'll never know, but they hear him asked,
"What about you?"
I'm just on my way up to Clavius.
Kubrick has also said that by communicating through visuals and through music, we can get free of the pigeonholing of language concepts, that words are inherently subjective and limiting. So he wants us to outgrow that instinct, to reduce cinema to some words that encapsulate the meaning, allowing us to promptly be done thinking about the movie we just saw. With that in mind, to get thinking more visually, what are the aesthetics of a Kubrick film telling us? Kubrick often uses one-point perspective. All lines appear to lead toward one vanishing point on the horizon line. This creates a feeling of depth. We feel drawn into the image. His one-point perspective and his frequent use of symmetry and center framing create a sense of order. But this clean, aesthetic orderliness creates mixed feelings in us. We feel a tension between wonder and terror. On the one hand, we're full of awe because his frames are so beautiful, but on the other hand, this eerie order makes us feel uneasy, like something is off and something terrible may be about to happen. In The Shining or A Clockwork Orange, we're witnessing very dark things, but we're seduced by the formal beauty of the images, so we feel conflicted. In 2001, the majestic order and circularity of the visuals feed our fascination about the mysteries of the bigger universe and this greater intelligence that's contacting humanity. But all of this is equally penetrated by fear, infused with a sense of threat, both from without and from within ourselves and our technological creations.
Stop there. I'm afraid.
The production design feeds this tension too. Perfect precision in the composition is paired with wild, incongruous oddities in the set or costumes. So there's a constant mix of visual right and wrong, confusing our brains. Kubrick's aesthetic feels cold to us. It's orderly, structured, richly beautiful and alluring, but never emotionally warm, never to be trusted. The cold images and that formal, orderly distance in the mise-en-scène correspond to a worldview that is strikingly unsentimental. Kubrick's stories are never clouded by the closeness of warm feeling. He's looking for objectivity through distance, so that he can give us accurate insights about the human condition. His gift for wide lenses visualizes the emotional distance and objectivity he's giving us. The wide lets us see more of the world that we're entering. And it's not just the formal compositions that make us feel like we're removed from the regular world. It's also his topics and settings, which are largely in the past or the future. Whether we're in space, an urban dystopia, on the battlefield of a historical war, or locked up in a creepy hotel. Being removed from our everyday life, it's as if we're looking at human nature under a magnifying glass, subtracting the usual variables that might make a story too close to home to properly understand. Kubrick once said that he believed the basic purpose of a film is, quote, illumination, showing the viewer something he can't see any other way. And I think at times this can be best accomplished by staying away from his own immediate environment. He added that, quote, dealing with themes that are either futuristic or historic, it removes the environmental blinkers in a sense, and gives you a deeper and more objective perspective. In conjunction with his perfectly ordered compositions and mise-en-scène, he's also achieving an image that's dynamic, kinetic, in motion, not a series of still photographs. This scene of Nicole Kidman in Eyes Wide Shut is a perfect example. The lens interacts with Kidman, with both the people in the story and the architecture or design that they're inhabiting, and this leads to a natural energy on screen. The feeling of interaction is what makes his images come alive. Kubrick's films tend to inspire all kinds of theorizing and speculation. Famously, many people believe The Shining is his confession that he helped fake the original moon landing.
It's all this referencing to Apollo 11, from the Apollo 11 literally rocket that he has on his sweater, to the configuration in the carpet that looks like the launch pad from space of where Apollo launched. You wonder with Kubrick, what is really going on in these films, because there's almost something for anybody to go into this movie and have some kind of an interpretation. If indeed the moon landing was faked, Kubrick would have been the one to do it.
The meticulously structured images, even the way that all the lines lead to a central unifying point, visually impart a feeling to us that there is some deeper meaning here, more than what's being said. And because we're not being told what to think, some strange, more far-fetched interpretations can result.
With Kubrick, it's really dangerously wide open.
Kubrick is very influenced by Nietzsche and the concept of eternal return or eternal recurrence, which is the idea that everything repeats over and over infinitely across time and space. We feel that sense of infinite repetition in Kubrick's endless images and in his stories. In The Shining, Jack is implied to be a reincarnated spirit who will continue to surface over and over, wanting a blood sacrifice each time. In 2001, human society continues to repeat the same ape behavior no matter how much we evolve. So the first weapon becomes the spaceship, the wide open desert that intimidated the apes before they became predators becomes the vast, intimidating openness of outer space. The apes around the watering hole trying to assert their dominance over rival apes become the Americans and the Russians in a circle talking casually. The clash now contained in subtext.
So we should be given all the facts, Dr. Floyd.
Yes, I know. As I said, I'm not at liberty to discuss it.
Everything repeats itself. We go through many changes, but in the end, we're unchanged. Kind of ironic, and also it's something that is antithetical to how most filmmakers, usually there's an arc to a character. You know, who they are at the beginning, they're a totally different person by the end of the movie. But he has a way of, they went through maybe some changes only to then come back to their point of origin. So this is illustrated in the movie Lolita. Kubrick has her point to the odometer, and she goes,
Hey, look, all the nines changed to the next 1,000.
so you can go 99,000 miles and then just start all over again.
Come in, 1 minute, Doogie.
Malcolm McDowell called Kubrick's humor as black as coal.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Kubrick makes light of things that are usually considered taboo or off-limits to comedy.
Here's Johnny.
Alex exuberantly sings and dances while assaulting a couple in their home. Lolita's story of pedophilia became a black comedy too.
Do you believe in God?
The question is, does God believe in me?
Which was Kubrick's response to having to tone down the eroticism of the novel to get the film by the censors.
I wondered if the symbolism wasn't a bit heavy-handed at times.
War is another subject Kubrick can find humor in. The wit of the names in Dr. Strangelove.
Group Captain Mandrake speaking.
This is General Ripper speaking.
General Turgidson. Please bring your kiss up in the...
Major Kong.
And the visual sexual innuendo of the war scenes make the entire movie one of the darkest comedies we can think of.
His comedy is so black that it ends with the whole world being blown up.
The irony-infused Full Metal Jacket ends with the men singing the Mickey Mouse Club theme song on the battlefield.
Who's the leader of the club that's made for you and me? M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E.
Kubrick's films explore sinister sides of domesticity and taboo or hostile erotic exploits.
If you men only knew.
They have a dark view of power and technology, of war, and of human society. Look at The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, Dr. Strangelove, Barry Lyndon. Kubrick is hardly holding out any hope that society will stop being so hung up on senseless irrational violence or sexually charged shows of power.
Kubrick has a very jaundiced view of humanity, I would say. If human beings is like a cautionary tale. If we're not careful, we're not going to make it out of here. We're going to destroy ourselves. And there's plenty of evidence for that. His Paths of Glory is a movie about how they pick 3 innocent guys to execute just to motivate their own troops. They're killing their own men. He's always about how things turn on, no matter what you make, it's going to turn on you. Hal turns on you. He's a computer that's supposed to serve us, but he turns on us and tries to kill us.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
In Lolita, they're in the movie theater together. Shelley Winters and Sue Lyon and James Mason, they're watching The Mummy. And when the mummy comes back to life, it immediately turns on the person that brought it back to life and kills that person. So this is a recurring theme throughout Kubrick. And so who's the one person that's supposed to protect you the most in life? Would be your father, right? He should give his life to protect his children. But no, The Shining's about how the father turns on his wife and son, and he's going to slaughter him.
At the same time, Kubrick strongly objected to the idea that he was a misanthrope. In 1968, he said, "You don't stop being concerned with man because you recognize his essential absurdities and frailties and pretensions. And also, in the deepest sense, I believe in man's potential and his capacity for progress." Kubrick's social critiques and his quest for objectivity aren't about embracing hopelessness or futility. His films are instead trying to avoid the easy false answers of sentimentality and illusions that we wish to be true. Kubrick's films do imply that there is meaning in things, but we have to be prepared that it's not the meaning we expect. The truth may be strange, dark, and difficult to accept. Still, if we push beyond our initial darkness and fear, we may be able to find something worthwhile on the other side. Kubrick doesn't soften his conclusions. He often leaves us in a very dark place. So hope is not to be found in the so-called civilized society that humankind has produced to date, But there may still be some hope at the end of a Kubrick film. Danny in The Shining escapes his violent father and doesn't take after him. 2001 ends with the star child heading toward Earth, giving us reason to think perhaps that we have another, more intelligent state of being ahead of us. Full Metal Jacket ends with that darkly sardonic note of the soldiers singing the Mickey Mouse Club theme, yet paradoxically, Joker has achieved a sort of relief after becoming a killer. He has counterintuitively accessed something human in him again. Kubrick spoken about how our awareness of mortality spoils that wonder and joy that we have as a child. But we can, quote, emerge from this twilight of the soul into a rebirth of life's elan. As he said, the most terrifying thing about the universe is not that it is hostile, but that it is indifferent. But if we can come to terms with this indifference and accept the challenges of life within the boundaries of death, our existence as a species can have genuine meaning and fulfillment. However vast the darkness, we must supply our own light. So there's a running message in Kubrick's work and interviews that sounds a lot like existentialism. First, we let go of our illusions of immortality, accept the indifference of the universe, and after that, we can build a more sustainable, more durable outlook for ourselves. We can perhaps go on to make or do something meaningful.
The dead know only one thing. It is better to be alive.
His movies are sometimes impenetrable, hard to really fully understand all the levels he's operating on simultaneously. He's certainly multidimensional, highly innovative, has many things to say, and he says them eloquently, but he says almost the same things across every movie, just in other incarnations. So he'll use different genres in order to say and grapple with the same message.
I am putting myself to the fullest possible use, which is all I think that any conscious entity can ever hope to do.
Hi guys, this is Susanna. We at Screen Prism are all about lifelong learning. We're always trying to improve our knowledge of film and visual culture. So we're really into Skillshare. Their online learning community offers over 18,000 classes, all for less than $10 a month. Right now, they're offering a pretty amazing deal. You can get 2 months access to all of their classes for just 99 cents total. But that's only if you're one of the first 500 people to click on our link in the description below. So yeah, if you want that deal, hurry up. We really like their classes on film, like cinematography, how to make your film look like a movie. Not to mention all their classes on business, design, photography, writing. These are some big, distinguished teachers coming to you through your computer screen. So if you want to take your work or your art to the next level, try Skillshare. Click the link in our description below, head over to Skillshare.com, and start filling your brains with the knowledge you need to develop all the skills you ever wanted.